ardent advocate and attorney for the president is Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Indeed, and he joins us now via Skype. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Mayor.
Good to see you, Crystal.
So have you spoken with the president today? What is his take and what is yours on the full Mueller report release?
Well, we're really delighted. It puts this matter to rest. You couldn't get a much clearer declination. Usually, all you ever get is we're not going to move with this. We're not going to go forward with that. This is a very, very complete explanation on collusion. It's sort of batted out of the ballpark, which of course raises the question: why do we have this investigation in the first place? Just to find out something we knew from the prior counterintelligence investigation, which is there was no evidence of collusion with Russians in any way or any form to affect the election. And then on obstruction of justice, the Attorney General's analysis of it is classic analysis of obstruction of justice. I think when you read the report, what you'll find is that the special counsel was trying to stretch actually the possible reach the conduct here, but think of how ridiculous the prosecution of obstruction would be. There was no underlying crime. In other words, the president didn't have a crime to conceal. They were investigating him on a false charge. And number two, nothing was ever obstructed. So no document was destroyed, no tapes were destroyed, no cell phones were destroyed, servers, like Ms. Clinton did.
And what do you make, Mayor Giuliani, about the way that Mueller did this on the one hand, on the other hand?
Well, I call it, he's sort of his Hamlet act, right? You know, to be, not to be, kind of a lawyer thing on the one hand, but on the other, I believe, I could be wrong, but I've run big law offices. I believe he probably had a debate. I kind of got a sense when we interacted with him that they had what I would call the good guys and the bad guys. People really out to get Trump, and they were just going to come up with any theory they could. And then he had people that were maybe not particularly favorable to Trump. I think they all were. Unfortunately, I think they were all anti-Trump people. But I think there were people that were sounder lawyers. Because what the Attorney General gave you in about 10 minutes is kind of what you would learn in law school about the crime of obstruction of justice. You've got to have two things. You've got to have an corrupt intent, and generally you have to obstruct something. There are attempts to it. You're never going to get an attempt to it. There's a situation where a person doesn't at least have a guilty motive. So this was a very, very difficult case.
So
for them, the president did nothing wrong. I mean, the simple fact is, the best argument for the president would be, this is an innocent man being falsely accused, who's doing these things because he's defending himself. And
right.
So let's say I didn't rob a bank. I get accused. I have a friend I was with that day. I go to my friend and I say to him, please go testify for me. I need you to testify because I don't want to do it. And I get even a little excited. Like, I'm never going to see you again. I'll never talk to you again. I'm not obstructing justice. I'm getting somebody to help me establish the truth. On the other hand,
do you acknowledge though that, I mean, there are some things in here that don't look too good, even if they don't rise to the level in your view of criminal obstruction of justice. You have that the president asked Don McGahn to instruct the acting attorney general to fire Mueller, and then after he refused to do that, he asked him to lie about that conversation. You have him talking to Corey Lewandowski about asking Jeff Sessions to curtail the investigation.
Here's the unfortunate thing about these things. And this is why these reports generally are never put out, and there's even a kind of a thinking that it's unethical to do this. I can't really respond to all that because the president hasn't testified about it, and I don't want him to testify about this because I always believe they were trying to trap him in the perjury. But I don't accept all those facts that you just told me. In fact, gotcha. I know some of them. I know some of them. Some of them I don't know in detail, and some of them I know, and I don't accept those as true.
So now you've been working on a response. When will that come out, and what can you give us a little preview there? What should we expect to see in there?
Sure. The response will essentially do in more detail essentially what the Attorney General did. I mean, that's not because we're copying, because that's the law. The law is, how can you possibly have an obstruction when you didn't commit a crime, you're being investigated for a crime you didn't commit, and all the things they're accusing you of, you did in order to defend yourself. Like, they make a big thing about Manafort and Cohen, and he was sending them signals how to testify. What he was basically doing is saying, please don't lie. And Cohen did, and Manafort didn't.
And Rudy, just to be clear, you think that Mueller should have decided the obstruction question himself, that this was punting?
Oh, sure. Well, don't you think? I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but I'm asking you.
I think so too, honestly.
All right. No, yeah, of course it was. I mean, that's what he got appointed for. We don't need a special counsel.
So what's his justification? And how could I haven't heard a single legal mind on the left or the right say that what Mueller did there was ethical, which to me brings into question a lot of how this report was written. There's a lot of information that was left out that seems very strange. Veselnitskaya, the Russian lawyer who met with some Trump officials, we all know the names, at Trump Tower, never mentioned that she was tied to Fusion GPS. There's a lot of stuff that's left out of the report. Why? So
this is a hatchet job. But, this is why the Justice Department generally, when I made declination decisions as a U.S. attorney, I didn't get to explain, well, I'm not going to prosecute for crime. But really, I kind of think maybe you did, and you put out all these dirty facts about you that may not even be true because you don't get a chance to respond to them. I mean, there are things in that report that are just dead wrong. For example, he accepts Michael Cohen's rendition of everything as if it's true. I know that a lot of it's not true. Some of the things he lied about, I know about directly. I know he wasn't offered a pardon because his lawyer came to me and asked for it. I told him no. His lawyer, who has now been relieved of the attorney-client privilege, would testify that Michael Cohen is lying. You don't see that in the report. I mean, the report is one-sided. It has an incredible standard of proof. They said we couldn't be convinced that he didn't obstruct justice. I can't imagine what that is. Couldn't be convinced. The standard is, can you prove that he did? The answer is no, they can't. And this is like a cheap shot because they can't prove it. But let me just regurgitate all the garbage I have. It's all one-sided. A lot of it not true. A lot of it exaggerated. Then sometimes you get fine little details that really make a difference. But the end result is, this is what the Attorney General pointed out. Even if it's all true, which it isn't, he didn't commit a crime. He didn't do anything wrong. Either he didn't do anything wrong, and he didn't commit a crime. Both.
Mr. Mayor, there's a lot in here from former White House counsel Don McGahn. Did you or the president or anyone surrounding him have visibility into some of the things that Mr. McGahn had told the special counsel before the report came out?
No, I was not involved in the defense when he was testifying, and didn't get involved until about a year ago. And all this happened maybe 6-7 months before. So I'm not really, I'm familiar with him having read it in great detail, but I'm not familiar with how the decisions were made. And but here's the point. I mean, McGahn is his lawyer. And one of the things you have a lawyer for is to talk to him. He'll give you an opinion. Sometimes, they'll give you an opinion about you should do it this way, you should do it that way. You're going to have disagreements. But that's all protected, and that's all protected conversation.
Rudy, speaking of protected conversation, are you upset that the president's written questions and answers were released?
No, we agreed to that. Look, by the time I came into it, we had already turned over 1 million documents, and they had 30 witnesses, 35 witnesses. That die was cast, and it had a lot of benefits. I think that's one of the reasons why we could avoid having to testify on a lot of things, because they really had the information, because John Dowd and Ty Cobb really did a good job being open. But it's extraordinary. I mean, very often we say he gave unprecedented cooperation for a president. It's really true. I mean, Bill Clinton fought them every step of the way. We just gave him everything, which actually also makes it hard to say it's some kind of obstruction, because they can't point to anything they didn't get that they would be entitled to. Mm-hmm. And so without that, it becomes a very theoretical kind of exercise. But what was he thinking, and what does it need? The simple fact is, nothing was interfered with at all in a tangible way. And his mental state was, I'm being accused of a crime I didn't commit. and I have to assert my innocence. Because the president has to. Because if you're a private person, nobody knows about the investigation. You don't have to answer. But I mean, this thing was tried in the press. I bet when you finish reading it, you're not going to have a surprise at all. Everything that I read in that report, particularly on obstruction, has been in the newspaper, on television.
I read a few things so far that have been a little surprising. Mr. Mayor, forgive me if you already answered this, but do you have a date set for when your rebuttal will come out?
No, we're really going through it and seeing what we have to rebut. At this point, we're pretty comfortable that people are digesting it, and we'll see how it works out. We'll put it out. I mean, it's a document that you need even for history. But as to exactly when we do it, we'll sort of take temperature, maybe put out slightly like a much shorter version. I just don't think people are going to want to read right now just a tremendous amount of legal stuff.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Thanks for your time, sir.